Is it really, really true? If this story was not in my mind, what is it that I could be accomplishing?
My guest today is Ceri Samvilian.
The Kenyan-born, Austrian-based authenticity queen, a mother, life coach, and HR professional, Ceri is redefining what it means to embrace your true self. Pushing her own boundaries, she embarked on a journey of self-discovery, uncovering the transformative power of journaling, a tool backed by science for reducing stress and strengthening the immune system. Driven by her passion, Ceri created a unique self-discovery journal that has empowered many to unlock their inner truth and embrace their authentic selves. Today, she shares her journey, her mission, and why journaling is more than just writing. It is a gateway to healing and growth.
So welcome, Ceri. Thank you so much for joining in. I'm so excited. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Joe.
Yes. And you know what, Ceri?
Tell
I
me.
spent so much time on this. Yes, I have it. You didn't know? I have it.
As a journal.
Yes. And the whole process of self-discovery. So I was thinking, like, looking at all the prompts you write in there and everything, I'm like, oh, when was the moment for you, Ceri, that you realized, or you just thought, like, who am I? I need to find myself. I need to discover something about myself. What was that turning curve? What happened? What was it?
So thanks for that question, because it's actually the basis of my teachings, because this is where I discovered I had to figure out who I am, or I'm just live dead inside, and I didn't want that. So it came later in my life. I've been living in Austria for over 17 or more years, and I did the same thing that everybody was doing, and that was, you get married, you have kids, you have a job, and I was just doing the same thing. And then one morning after they had gone to school, there was just this silence in the house. And I was like, so what now? I lived my life doing what society told me to do, Joe. You know how it is. You're told you have to go to school, you have to do university, you have to go to work, you have to have a family. But what happens after that? And for me, as I'm born and raised in Kenya, I was born in a Christian family. And this is what I know for sure. I know that I was told that God gave you a talent and a purpose. Each one of his children has a talent and a purpose. So it's like, okay, so if I have a talent and a purpose, I'm like 35. I have no idea what that is. And that killed me. And that was like the moving force for me to say, I have to figure this out. Because if I'm not going to figure this out now, when am I going to do that? And with time, Joe, I realized that I had changed so much that I didn't recognize myself anymore. You see, who you are in your 20s is not who you are in your 30s. Who are in your 30s is not who you are in your 40s. The question is, what are you doing to catch up to that person? What are you doing to relearn who you are? Because we go through so much, you experience so much, you learn a lot, you change your mind a lot. So what are you doing to get to know who you are again? And then orientating your goals to the person who you are today, and not the person who you are 10 years ago. Because that's not the same person.
Yes. I hear you, because when we were speaking, we had a bit of bridge with the internet. Yes, there was a portion, especially the portion where you said you came home after you dropped the kids in school. That part left, so you came home, and what did you do?
I come home and it's quiet. And then I had to ask myself, so was that all there is? Is that all there is for me? Is that all I'm here for? Because I know I'm more than just being the wife and mom. I'm more than that. I'm supposed to be doing more than this. So what is it that I'm doing right now? What is it that I want? And that's a huge question, Joe, to ask yourself. What do you want?
Wow.
The thing is, you have to ask yourself, when you ask yourself that question, the only way you can answer it is by understanding who you are first.
Yes, but how
And that's where
yes, but how do you understand who you are? Because you grew up in a society where, like you said already, maybe you have a Christian background, or you have a Islamic background. It depends on your belief system, your educational system, and you have all this background, and that has already shaped you to become what you're experiencing right now. So if you have that kind of moment that you had, and you're like, who am I? Is this all? What's more? If you have that moment, how do you start trying to discover who there is, who you really are?
you start by, for me personally, what I did was, now I started reading. And I started getting into this personal development world. Because what happens is, you have to figure out, okay, what is it that I understand about myself? So I had to understand what is important to me. And as I was reading, I realized there's something called values. And your values are the things that are important to you. Now, whether you know it or not, every day.
Values. You were talking about values, right? You said trying to understand and discover yourself has a lot to do with understanding what your values are. And then I remember in your book, your journal, there's a place I put on Mac, and it talks about values. You say values, well, this is a quote from Elvis Presley, and you put it in saying, values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them all over everything you do. Tell us more.
So that's what I'm saying. Whether you know it or not, you are living by your values. The question is why. Your values are the things that are the most important to you. They're the things that bring you fulfillment, right? And that's why you focus so much on just that. So your values, I can give an example. Your value is, there's somebody who he's a researcher, Dr. John Damartini. Now, Dr. John Damartini has been researching values for over 40 years. And he says this: your values are the things that you're fulfilling because you have a void. And that void which is missing, that is what we are focusing on fulfilling, because that's what we as human beings do. When something is missing, then we want to fill that up, because we think when it's filled up, then we'll be fine. So you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, right? An example, just a simple example, is like, I grew up without a dad, right? And for me, because I didn't have that father figure, I lived my life trying to fill that void with friendships or relationships or whatever it is. That's what I've focused on, because that's what's important to me. Okay. Another thing can be like, for me, it's freedom. I was raised in a very constricted lifestyle. And now when I'm older, I just want to have freedom. And that is so important to me, because I don't want to ever feel constricted anymore. So you're living your life every day, doing things based on those decisions. Now, the thing is, once you understand what is important to you, now you can use that as a compass. And this is why I use that as in my book. It's a compass, your values and what's important to you. Once you understand who you are, now you use that as your basis of direction. Now you know where you're going, why you're doing it. And then all your decisions are now based on those values, on the things that are important to you. So that if something comes up, this is when now you're not basing your decision on the world, on who says what, who decides what, or who thinks what. You're basing it on what's important to you. So if somebody suggests something, let's go and do have this business idea, or I want us to go for this meeting, or I want us to go somewhere or do something, and it's not satisfying your values, this is not important to me. This is not going to satisfy me. Then I'm not going to do it because I understand what's important to me. But we as human beings, we want to please people. We want to do what other people, think of us. But what happens? And what you do is, after you've done whatever it is you think you're supposed to be doing for yourself, you'll end up unsatisfied. You'll end up not being confident in yourself anymore because you're doing things based on other people.
Yes, but exactly, like you're saying it now, it really takes me to this question that I've been thinking about. Like, what about these external expectations? The satisfying people. And sometimes it might not just be people very far, it could be people like your friends, your immediate family,
Yes.
People that you really love and you care about their feelings. So how do you navigate from not disappointing these people to not living their expectations for yourself, but really finding your authentic self?
So this is where things become, it's not tricky. It's teaching people how to treat you. If you're not going to teach people how to treat you, people will treat you how they want to be treated. It's your job, only your job, to understand that people will treat you and deal with you the way you let them. And that's a thing I had to learn, because Joe, I'm a people pleaser. I've always been that, and I understand that completely. I've always done things the way I was expected to, or I was asked, because I didn't know how to turn somebody down. And the more I understood who I was, the more I understood who my authentic self was, the more I was able to build my self-confidence, build my self-worth. And when I know something and somebody comes to me and says, you're supposed to be, doing what at the age of 40, or you're not, at the time when I wanted to change my careers, and I said, no, I don't want to be just focusing on this job 9-to-5 thing. I want to be a life coach. And a lot of people told me, are you joking? Why would you want to do that? But what's also interesting, Joe, is the people who really, really knew me and really cared about me said, what is this life coaching thing? And then I explained to them what it is. And they're like, but that's what you've always been doing. That's who you are. Those are the people I listen to and move forward, because they understand who I am. The people who come and say, oh, you shouldn't do it. Why would you want to change it? You've always been doing this. It's two things. Please understand this. People bring their fear to you, okay? People will relay what it is. If they don't understand something, they'll quickly tell you, no, don't do it. But that's them who is fearful. You don't have to also bring that fear into yourself, right?
But you let them go. Do you leave them behind? Because this is now you on the journey of discovering yourself. You now know your values. And then you have those people around you that appreciate you and that support you. They let you be. Then you have these other people around you that are afraid. Like you said, people bring their fear to you, right? And you don't want to take it on. So what do you do to protect yourself? Do you let them go?
You don't have to, because everybody has their role. If they're important to you, no. If they're harmful to you, that's different. You see, it's about you seeing that. Are they harmful to you? Or do you just need to put them on the side? Or do you need to just show them that you can? And then they'll be like, oh, okay, I'm sorry that I said that. So it's up to you to decide that. But this is where now the only way you can do that, and the only way you can have courage to do that, is by building and understanding yourself first. Once you understand and build your own self-worth and self-confidence, there's nothing anybody will tell you to move. And you know what else, Joe? They will also respect you more for keeping and making that decision. So the fear of you losing people can also just be in your mind. It's just that if I focus on me, people respect you more because they can see, okay, she's really been consistent with this. She's really doing something about it. She's actually making an impact. And then things can change. So you don't need to, as again, unless they are harmful to you.
So what did you do? Like when you stood and you asked yourself, is this it? I want to be more. I want to discover myself. What was like your next step that you took, like, you know, to go towards this direction?
Study. Understand yourself. The thing is, take as many books as possible to understand things. One thing I read a lot was one of the first books I read was The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Covey. That's such a huge book to read. And I started getting into these principles and these books. And once you do that, your eyes open up to more things. And then go to what you feel is guides you and says, I'm interested in this. I want to learn more about this particular thing. So I'm not going to tell somebody, oh, you need to have to do this and this and this, because it's different for different people. Start with one book that you feel you can learn from, and then dig deeper. And those things that help you dig deeper, help you understand what's important to you. Help you understand one thing absolutely you do need to understand is your values and your beliefs, your limiting beliefs. What is those things that are keeping me from me being the best version of myself? What are the beliefs that I have and what is it in my mind that I'm thinking that is keeping me away from being the person that I need to be?
What was it for you? What was it for you when you discovered?
Oh man, for me, Joe, let me tell you what, Joanna, I had gone to so I'm invested in myself, not just with time, but with money and being away from my family, because I needed to put that effort. So I went for a 4-day seminar with Tony Robbins, and that changes you because you're immersed in this personal development world. Okay. So one of the things that came out, and we do this thing, we talk about what's important to you, you talk about your limiting beliefs, and one huge thing came out for me. And that was that I did not believe I was smart enough. And as I was thinking about it, I realized that as I was growing up, I was that kid that everybody around me, my brother, my sister, they were all smarter than me. And I believed that, it was just through hard work that I had to do double the work, study double as hard, do extra active things, tuition. And I did all these things because I believed that that was the only way I was able to understand stuff. And so for me, I was not the smart one. I just had to work hard. And with time, I realized, no, actually, I was just not interested in those topics. And if I was not interested in them, then my mind just didn't focus on it. But if I was interested, then I was fully in. And so with that, I thought, so that means I can study and do anything at this moment. And that's what led me to say, okay, I'm going to certify myself. I'm going to do all these certifications to be a life coach and all these techniques and learn things, because now I know I'm not dumb.
So realization. So realizing that limiting belief that you kept telling yourself, the story you kept telling yourself, just knowing that, facing it, right? And then maybe forgiving yourself for telling yourself the story all along, which has limited you. So this realization actually helps a mindset shift, right?
Yes, it moves you because now then it's like you open something up in you and you release yourself from that old story. And now you create a new story in your mind. And for me anything is possible. I'm able to achieve whatever it is I set my mind to it, I can achieve it. And now I know that for sure. Nobody can tell me anything other than that. And that's the thing about limiting beliefs. I always say it's like limiting beliefs is like being in a dark room, right? And once you notice, because we have many dark rooms, so you have to deal with each limiting belief as it comes. So when you go to one, like door one, and you open it, and all you have to do is shine a light on that limiting belief, it will disappear.
It's like a practice. Well, when you say shine a light, it's metaphoric now. So, but
Yes.
what specific practice? Because people listening to this podcast are entrepreneurs. They're people that want more. They want to take a bold move, right?
Yes.
And maybe for them, it's just this limiting belief. For me, it could be just a specific limiting belief. And I am thinking, okay, for example, there was a time that I thought like, oh, I'm already too old to start that. It's gone. I just, the time has passed. So I have to do this now. This is what people around my age. So that's a limiting belief. So shining a light, what are practical steps, practices? What's that light that you could use?
I love that, Joe, because what I do is you ask yourself questions. This is what I learned as I was going through it. Ask yourself questions. Ask yourself this. Is this story that I'm telling myself helping me move forward? Is it helping me move forward? Is this story really true about myself? Is it really, really true? And the other thing is, and finally ask yourself, if this story was not in my mind, what is it that I could be accomplishing? What is it that I could be doing if I wasn't thinking this way? And once you let your mind just go through the motions of answering those questions, you realize that you've been telling yourself an illusion, that it's all been a story in your mind. And then what is it, the story now you have to tell yourself? You have to ask yourself this other question. What do I want to believe instead of this story, of this belief? Make sure you replace that limiting belief with a story that you now want to believe about yourself today. Replace that belief so it's not there anymore.
Wow. So, what about people who live in an environment that is toxic, right? They live in an environment, of course, maybe the story they've been telling themselves, it's a kind of priming that had come from the environment, maybe their parents or their spouse or their siblings or their teacher says, you're not enough, you don't know how to draw, you don't, there's always something they have a deficit on, and they have, ingrained that story into themselves and made it their own. And they still find themselves maybe in the workplace still hearing the same thing. It's now almost in their mind, like it's a pattern. When I was a child, I was told that. When, and they still experience it now. And now they've gone through the process of trying to discover themselves, and they're taking the torch and shining that light and rebranding their story. But the next day they have to wake up and go back to that toxic environment. So I don't know, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
What kind of technique, what kind of practice, what kind of, as a life coach and someone who might have, coached people and gone through this experience, what approach would you say, sorry, bless you, that someone like that should go through? Yeah.
Okay, so you can do a couple of things. And what is important, and this is why I created this journal, because two things. One, what I did personally is I had to find someone who believes in me.
Find your tribe.
Find someone who believes in you and what it is that you do, okay? Once you find that someone, the other thing is, and this is what I was saying, I have my journal, is talking to yourself through these things, okay? The journal is a beautiful space of self-expression, expressing anything that goes on in our mind. You see, Joe, for us, we have all these thoughts and ideas in our heads, and we have nowhere to share it or explain it. And sometimes we just need to express whatever is happening in our heads so that we can find the solution. So journaling is a great space to do that. When you have if like daily, like when you have a struggle and you're thinking and you're having this toxic environment, talk about it, write about it, see what, think about what's happening. Why do you think they're saying that? Should I believe what it is they're saying? Is it true what it is that they're saying? And talk yourself through it. Speak to this person, whether it's your coach or your best friend, about it. Somebody who can pull you out and reassure you. Now, why a coach is really good is because a coach helps you move forward and not sticking and staying and getting stuck. A coach helps you find solutions and helps you move forward to what it is that you want to achieve. And only if you want to achieve it.
Yeah.
It's all about you. If you want to achieve that and you create a space, an environment for you to do that, you can achieve and do anything. But create those steps. The other very important thing, as I was hearing your question, I heard this toxic environment, this space, if it's home, if it's wherever it is, the first thing that popped out for me was your comfort zone. That is your comfort zone. What is a comfort zone? A comfort zone is a space where you're just doing everything the same all the time. It's the same system, the same conversation, the same habits, the same thing, the same routine, the same schedule. That's a comfort zone. What happens in your comfort zone? Nothing. Nothing interesting is going to happen in your comfort zone. No growth, no improvements. You cannot achieve anything of value to you if you stay in your comfort zone. So the next thing is getting yourself out of the comfort zone. Question is how? How do I get myself out of my comfort zone? By doing things that are uncomfortable to you. It has to be something that is uncomfortable and fearful.
What have you done? Tell us what you have done to take you out of your comfort zone, so that and what made you take that step and why you did it.
So the first time I really seriously took out myself, by the way, this is a process.
Okay.
I did this when I was 37. I'm going to tell you the story, but that was a few years ago for me. But the thing is, I'm always getting myself out of comfort zone, because after a year or two of doing whatever it is you achieve, you will fall into your comfort zone again, and you have to find a way to get yourself out again. All right. So it's a thing that you have to be aware of and you keep working on. Right. But the first time that I really had the hugest impact, it was a big impact for me, was when I got myself a coach. I realized I needed to understand who I was. I needed to understand what it is that I wanted to do, because I had no idea. I found a coach, and one of the first things she did was told me, okay, we need to get you out of your comfort zone. You know what? We have this thing, and this was maybe, I don't know, 8-9 years ago, when in Vienna, where we stay, we have this thing called, it was an organization, it was not organized, it was a club, let's say like a club of a friend who he created it as a social experiment. He wanted to see what it was. And he called it the Comfort Zone Crashers. And this were people who would meet every weekend to do things that will make you scared, but would coach you so that you're able to achieve whatever it is that makes you feel scared. Because the thing is, for us, we have to learn how to deal with fear. Because fear is actually a game in our minds. And that's what I learned later. So let me go back. So we joined this meeting, and it's a Saturday afternoon meeting where you meet and you meet new people, but there's a schedule on how it works. So one of the things that we did was we would go in the middle of Vienna city and do different activities. And these activities would be things like, you're told, go and give 5 strangers high fives.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Or go to someone and start telling them a joke.
In Vienna, we're talking about a Western European city, Central Europe, and sometimes it could be very, very, very scary with hospitality, right? So if you're listening to this now and you're in Nigeria or somewhere on the African continent, and you're like, well, of course I can just go meet someone and say, this is a bit different. So thank you. Yeah.
Yes. No, in Africa, it's different. Everybody is able to talk to you. But out here, it's like people are not friendly. They see you as strange, or if they don't know you, then nobody is really very open to talk to you.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to start a conversation with people here. So what happened is you're told, okay, go and greet, say hi, give high five to 5 people, and you're given 3-4 things that you do. What's the purpose of this? One, of course, it's fear. You're afraid to do this, right? You don't want to, you don't know the response, you don't understand what's going to happen. But the thing is, really, what's going to happen if somebody tells you, if you go to somebody and say, can I have a high five? And they say no. What's going to happen?
So
Are you going to die? No.
Facing the fear.
Yeah, but it's also reasoning through it. Are you going to die? No. Do they know you? No. Do they know where you live? No. It's just a reply. It's just a no. Nothing's going to happen. And it's for you to get over that fear, right?
Okay.
And understand it's okay. The other thing is you will get a yes. And actually, you get more yeses than no's, but you have to get over that no and that fear for you to get to the yes. And that's now you getting over this comfort zone area of being only in the space where everything works for you. What happens if you get yourself in the cold and outside? Are you able to orientate yourself? How does your mind think in that way? And that is a really great way to get out of your comfort zone. So we did that. The other thing that was done at the meeting was public speaking. Public speaking is one of the biggest fears of human beings. They say if you rate it between death and public speaking, people rather die than actually have public speaking. So what happens is they say, anybody can come up and prepare like a talk for only 5-7 minutes. It doesn't even have to be that long. You see, I had never done that before. Like standing in front of people and talking, I'd never done that before. And the thought of putting a talk for 6-7 minutes, I was like, what are you talking about standing in front of people for 5 to 7 minutes? And my coach was like, so that's what you're going to do in 2 weeks, okay? You're going to stand up there and talk to them. And I was, of course, fear, right? But you prepare yourself. So I prepared myself. I wrote down my notes. And one thing that I really wanted to do was speak through my heart. And that's what I realized that's something that I like doing. Speaking what is important to me. And at that time, it was my search for myself, my search for what makes me happy. And that's what I talked about. That was the first time I actually spoke about finding your authentic self, which is my topic right now, which is interesting. So if I had never put myself in that space, I would never have known that topic. So I prepared all my notes. I was organized. I had said the speech, I was still practicing the mirror. I had practiced in the mirror. I was even timing it. It was so great. The thing is, on my way to the venue, I took my notes, my cards, because I had really good cards. And I was like, okay, so let me put down my cards now. And, I wanted to do breathing exercise because I was nervous to calm myself down. And then I realized I needed to get out because my stop was there and I was running out. And as I was getting to the venue, I realized that I had forgotten my cards in the train. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And I remember calling my coach and saying, so I forgot my cards. I cannot do this. We have to cancel it. Oh, as every coach knows this, you're never going to accept that. My coach never accepted that. And she said, no, you're going to come and we're going to talk this through and everything's going to be fine. Just come. So I arrived and I remember arriving and seeing more people than normal. So I went through a breakdown in the bathroom for like 10 minutes of trying to figure out how actually my point to go in the bathroom was to explain to my coach that I need to leave. But that was not, she was like, no, this is not why we're here. We're here because you need to get over this fear. And you need to see how far you can push yourself and what it is that you're made of. This is the thing, Joe. If you're not going to put yourself in situations to see how far you can go, you're never going to know who you are.
So you need to stretch to find you.
Exactly. And you need to fight for yourself. So after I had calmed down and written down through memory my notes, I then felt confident. I was like, okay, now I can do this. This is the amazing thing. Once I had given my speech and my talk, I felt good about it. And I was really confident. And once I was finished, I got this huge applause from everybody. And that really surprised me. I was like, what? And then somebody stood up, and I would never forget this. Somebody stood up and he said, you know what, Ceri, you have a talent. And that really blew me, and I cried because I was 36 at that time, and nobody in my lifetime had ever told me that I had a talent. No one. And I did, because I didn't, that's why I was in this funk, because I didn't know. But if I had not pushed myself, if I had not gotten out of my comfort zone, I would never have given myself that experience of being told you have a talent.
This is so emotional because this is actually like a turning point for you, because having carried this limiting story about not being enough, not being brilliant enough, and then going through the process now of tapping into courage, right? Facing, confronting that fear, and actually taking out the practice, right? Listen to you, you had to really physically, it's not just all happening in the head. You really have to move, and you take that journey and you do something. You face that fear and you speak, and it's just like a reward coming to you that's broken all the story you've told yourself, someone telling you at this moment that you have a talent. How did that turning point, how did it transform your future?
It completely did, because then I realized not only do I have a talent, I have a passion for what it is that that about this thing, and not just for public speaking, because I am a speaker, but for teaching people how to understand themselves, because I was able to do that for myself. And so I was able to do multiple things, and the connections also that friendships and connections I received in that group are people that I know until today, and people who support me and push me today. And the only reason that happened is because I had this determination to understand what it is that I wanted to do with my life. But I just didn't want to have goals, Joe. I didn't want just to have, I want to have a great house, I want to have a great salary, whatever. That was not my point. My point was, now that I'm, I was 36 at that time. It's not that young. But I wanted now because I had made goals before in my 20s, I had made goals before, but I realized those goals were not based on my authentic self and who I truly am. I wanted to first understand who I am, because I said, if I understand my authentic self, I can use that as a foundation. Now, if I have that foundation, that means I can build whatever house that I want to build on that foundation, as long as I have that base. And that is the reason why understanding who you truly are. And this is the thing about authenticity, and I've learned this with time. Authenticity for me is the understanding of your uniqueness. Because when you understand your uniqueness, actually what you have done is you have unlocked the superpower, which is the only thing and the only reason we're here. Once you understand your superpower, what makes you unique, now you can derive your goals from that foundation. And that will be your real authentic goals, and not goals based on what society has told you to be, your family, your work, or your whatever it is. It's based on who you are and being true to yourself. And once you do that, that is like a ticket ensuring your happiness, because that's just who you are. That's what makes you happy. That's what makes you alive. That's what gives you the drive that you want. And that's what keeps you achieving what is, because you are doing it based on you. And that's,
yeah. And listening to you, I'm thinking that, so if, let's say I go in this process and I discover my values, discover my authentic self, and I use that, like you say, as my superpower, and I build in the different areas of my life. I build. It's 5 years, it's 10 years. I'm flourishing in this authentic me. As I grow, maybe my values begin to change. Do they change? Is this static? Or when do I realize that something is changing, my values are changing? When do I go back, or is it like something that becomes very static and you're like, no, I'd rather change the things I want to do because they don't fit the values that already put in stone as concrete values? Or no, do I accept that because of my growth, my values have changed, so I really need to now start rediscovering myself? So is there actually a rediscovering of oneself?
so yes, values change. Remember, we said who I was in my 20s is not who I am in my 30s, because this is what happens with us as human beings. We are always evolving in every way possible. But that is something that's instinct, like it's genetics. We want to grow, we want to be better, we want to do more, we want to change, we want to learn, right? That's something in us. The other thing is we experience life differently, right? Every season is different for us. We get into different seasons. And so what happens is you grow, when you're in your 20s, if it's coming out of school and your season of now understanding yourself, understanding your job or your work, or being in university, you're understanding how you fit into the world. And then after doing that, it's now understanding, okay, now you're getting into family life, is if that's something that you want to get into, or business is that, and you change and evolve with that too. And you as a person with your life experience, you evolve because you learn different things. So you things change, your understanding of what's important to you changes. The thing is, you have to keep up with that change. And this is what a journal does, because I started journaling when I was like a teenager, 14, 15 years old. And as I was doing that, I mean, I did it as often as I could. And, you don't have to journal every day. But there were times in my life I had to journal every day because of the stuff I was going through. So it really depends. But what I really like about my journals, and I still have them, is I'm able to look back at them and see how far I have come.
What do you tell that 16 years old girl now when you read what you wrote?
When I write it, I'm always I want to tell her it's okay. Whatever it is that you're going through, you will be fine. And never stop believing in yourself, because as I never, at that time, it was a lot of me thinking that I had to depend on other people to see me in a certain way, for me to be seen, or I had to please other people for me to be seen. And I would tell myself, you know what, just keep being you, because that is the most important thing that you can ever do. And I always say, if I knew what I knew in my 30s, when I was a teenager and in my 20s, it's such a powerful thing. And this is why I encourage people who are in their 20s to really get into that personal development world and understand who you are, because it's a powerful thing. You're giving yourself that key, that superpower to push yourself into this great great version of you. And once the earlier you do it, the better practice you have the older that you are, and the more you can do with your life. And it's not just about being wealthy or being whatever it is. It's about what it is that, or who you can be in your society, who you can be in your family, the lives that you can touch by just being yourself, by not letting other people block you. And because everybody's watching what you're doing. It can be anything. And the more you shine your light, the more you inspire the people around you to shine their light. As we were saying earlier, find your tribe and live your life through that tribe, because you're pushing each other forward, and you will achieve so much more that way.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Ceri. And we've been having a conversation with Ceri Samvilian, and this is Bold with Joe. It's time to forge a bold future. I have been taking some, snippets, some tweetables, some takeaways for myself, and I think I really want to share some of them with you. Ceri says, understand your values. This is so important because you could use it as a compass. And values are not static, they could change. Ceri, I hope I'm getting that right.
Yes, you are.
And she says, teach people how to treat you, because you want people to treat you in a certain way. So your audience, your authentic self is aligned with your values. People might bring their fear to you, but it's up to you to decide if you're going to allow that. Are you enough? You are not enough? Have you been contemplating about this? Ceri shared her experience about how hearing, accepting that limiting belief and story for a while, how it held her back from really finding who she is. And just taking that physical step, coming from the mindset, then going into the physical, how that transformed and opened up a whole bold future for Ceri. So I hope you stay as we continue these conversations. We're going to some parts of this conversation you don't want to miss out. See you on Bold with Joe. So share with us,
Okay.
So yes, share with us your favorite quote on resilience.
So what's interesting is I have a lot of quotes in the journal. So I'm going to read one of them my own quote. See every problem as an opportunity to learn more about yourself, an opportunity to go beyond your limits. And at the end, you will always grow no matter the outcome. And this is why, for me, this is why I feel it's important to face your fear, because only then will you understand how you're going to react to it, and will you grow the muscle of that resilience. Because fear or new things, new opportunities, something that's fearful, something that's hard, something that's not going the way you want it to go, see it as an opportunity to learn something, an opportunity to create something, an opportunity to become a better person. Because that's the only reason I believe everything that we go through, there's a reason for it. So it doesn't matter how difficult it is. There's a reason you're going through what it is that you're going through. So don't take it like, oh my God, the world is just against me. Ask yourself, what am I meant to be learning at this point?
Wow. Thank you so much, Ceri. And now we end our session with 3 questions that you should give us like an answer in one word or in a phrase. I know this is going to be a tricky one. I might even get so excited about the answer now and I start dragging you into a long conversation. So let's go. Name one bold move you have made, something you were so scared of, but you found the courage to do it anyway.
Getting myself certified.
Thank you. And having spent this amount of years on Earth, now we know a bit about your age. You've been playing around with it. So share one of the most valuable lesson you have learned so far from your experience on Earth?
I've learned that I'm worthy. I've learned about my worth. And that was important to me because I'm a giver. And that's what I thought I was. I'm just a giver and a pleaser. And I always waited for people to pour into me. And then I realized I have to pour into myself and fill up my self-worth. Because without that, then I will not have the confidence to be the person that I want to be. So self-worth, I am worthy.
Wow, I am worthy. So thank you for saying that. Thank you for sharing that. And the last one now, if at this very moment, you had all the tools and resources to do anything you desired, what would you do?
I want to build a youth center in Kenya. I want to have a space for young people to see and do more than just if it's a school. I want to open up young minds because as I'm living here in Austria or this part of Europe, I've realized, and for my kids too, maybe it's because I have kids who are going through this stage and I see that the influence that we have these days with social media and all of this stuff, it's not helping them grow. And there's more to life than that. So I want to have a center where all we're doing is helping you understand who you are, give you tools to be and grow better and explore. And I think that's something that young people need, and to give them mentors, people to look up to and things to look up to so that their minds can really expand, because I think that this world is about the shaping young minds. And once we do that, they can create such an amazing future for us. But it's our job to help them do that.
Thank you so much, Ceri. Thank you for taking that bold step to get your certification. Thank you, Ceri, for letting us know that we're worth it. And thank you for having that vision to take the step to just imagine that you want to empower youths in Kenya. Thank you for being on this show. This was Bold with Joe, and my guest is Ceri Samvilian.